Okay. All right, BOMAQ talk. We are back. This is session 2, right? We have already done the first hour, session 5. So this is session 6, right? So it's Friday, last Friday in the month of March. Yes. And this is the last hour. This is the second hour of 2 hours. These are pre-recorded. If you're looking for the videos, go to Urbanetectonics YouTube page, click the tab for videos. Since they're pre-recorded, when we're live, you would click the live tab. All right, so we're back. We're still talking the new currents, give to gain, new currency of creative leadership. The last segment, we kind of went down a list of income stack, the income stack that we prefer, and you can create one of your own. Along that lines, we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into some other uh, subject matter in regards to this episode, which we are calling the owner's ledger, profits, pay, and pensions, right? And so as indicated, this episode focuses on optimizing business owner income. That's our target market: business owners, managers, administrators, decision makers, those making decisions about the subject matter content to which we BOMAC talk about. All right, so episode focuses on optimizing business owner income, navigating new transparency laws, pay transparency laws, and securing retirement for baby boomers, Gen Xers, and Gen X. And the key takeaways is differentiating for this segment, differentiating between earned salary from profit distributions, tax implications, maybe on Social Security, um, adapting to pay transparency. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to dive into business capital and investing. That's the exciting part. New stuff we learned. And so we're just going to touch on it. Just we kind of went over on the first hour. So it's a little bit longer than this hour, but lots of content here to share. All right. So um, last segment, like I said, we talked about an income stacked. We talked about earned income and we talked about profit income. And now we're uh, going to kind of talk about the importance of distinguishing between the two, right? So when maximizing cash flow across the 7 streams to which we prefer, you focus on how to interact and build momentum and protect, between them, how they're interacting with each other. So some of the key takeaways for our strategy, right? So you may adopt that as strategy if that works for you. All right. Um, but the key takeaways for the strategy, um, the path we're taking is there's 5. The velocity of money. So active versus passive, the balance, earned and profit income, high effort, high reward to fund the dividend or the coupon, compound, compound interest or rental buckets, right? So um, that active versus passive balance. We have 2 active within that income stack. There's 2 active, the rest of those, the other 5. Look like it's going to be that kind of hour. The other 5 are passive, right? So kind of balancing that out, use earned and profit income to fund the dividend, coupon interest, and rental buckets, right? The goal is to eventually let the passive streams cover the lifestyle that you want, right? And so that's one key takeaway. The second key takeaway is the intellectual property is the hidden gem. Our IP is the hidden gem. So royalty income is uniquely powerful for a business like Urbanetectonics by turning our project processes into books. That's what we've done. Classes. We monetize our expertise twice. Once through the service, profit, income, and then once through the knowledge, the royalty, right? And so that is the strategy. That's what we're trying to do. Then number three, the tax efficiency is the growth lever. So capital gains and qualified dividends are generally taxed at lower rates than earned income. Rental income offers these phantom losses through depreciation, which can offset the taxes that may be owed through LLC profits, right? So there is some tax efficiency opportunities there in the income stack we've chosen. Then risk hedging, we can hedge some risks. Um, the types of risks we could hedge is market protection. When the real estate market is slow, affecting maybe profit and rentals, the compound interest and dividends could provide a liquid safety net. That's if they're structured and monetized, you know, to be able to do that. And then business protection, the salary or earned income ensures that the personal bills are paid, even if the LLC decides to reinvest all of its profit, which is what we do, back into the growth. And then fifth, uh, last but not least, scalability limits, right? So the ceiling earned, the the ceiling earned and profit income are limited by time and team capacity, right? So when you're trying to scale, and that's what we're trying to work through, that's where we got a little role overlap in the core 8 and 9 that we're developing, you know, SaaS products and apps and automations for, um, is we want to increase, you know, break through the ceiling. We want to break through the ceiling. So earned and profit income are limited by time and team capacity, right? So um, that's the ceiling. The floor is the compound interest, dividends, royalties, which have no ceiling. They can grow while you sleep, right? So they can continue to grow as long as that IP and that intellectual property still holds value. Like I said, as markets are changing and as industry is changing and being disrupted, we have to continue to capture that value in the IP. And that's what we are vigorously working to do, right? So um, wanted to, and as we segue into kind of defining um, um, earned income versus profit income, want to just make sure or emphasize understanding the distinction between the two. Since I got that question, I just wanted to just drive it home. Um, uh, Between the two, W-2 earned income is that W-2 salary. You know, you get W-2, and if you have earned income through your business, then you're giving yourself W-2. And um, profit distributions, which are just pass through income dividends, right? So why it matters, high wages mean higher payroll taxes, higher Social Security benefits, higher payroll taxes now, higher Social Security benefits later. High distributions minimizes taxes, but decreases Social Security. So one, you have higher payroll taxes, but higher Social Security benefits later. That's the W-2. That works whether you're paying yourself or you're being paid by someone else's business activity. You work for somebody else. Okay. um, and then the profit distributions, high distributions, meaning you take lots of money out of the profit income part. High distributions minimizes taxes, but it decreases your Social Security, which is critical for Texas and Ohio owners over 50, right? So whether you're a 55-year-old Ohio LLC owner compared to a 62-year-old Texas S Corp owner, balancing that current liquidity with the retirement needs would be different in each case. So that's what I said. You need those professionals so they can get specific to you, your situation, and those types of things. So this is good work. That's good work. All right. So um, the income split. Um, Earned income, W-2, salary. For S Corp, C Corp owners, they usually have this in quotes, the reasonable salary. Salary meaning market salary. If you went out in the marketing, got a job with someone else, what would they be paying someone with that role? So it has to be compensation that is competitive to the market. Um, and they often call that reasonable, reasonable salary. And who knows? And we're going to talk about pay gap, pay transparency and pay gap. When we talk about reasonable salary, let's just get into it. because of, you know, because when in our industry, um, in my industry of my undergrad, architecture, engineering, construction, which are my base industries of my degree programs. So each professional organization puts out uh, a publication that shows what the what what your role in industry might be, a list of roles in that industry, and what the salary, um, the expected salary is uh, the role and expected salary, the role and the expected salary, the role and the expected salary. And so there's an industry norm, and within the AEC industry, they publish that publications. And so as a professional, when asked what was my salary requirements, or I would always send that publication, match that. It's like, it's like, don't ask me, match this. You match this. And it's always an issue. I have never received pay based upon those industry norms. So that goes, the pay gap and all those types of things. Yeah. Um, Reasonable salary to me is what they're publishing. Whatever they publishing, what the norms are, is a reasonable salary. And my definition of reasonable salary, which is always for debate. So just wanted to add that in there. Add that in there. That uh, when we're talking about reasonable salary, and in this case, it's mandatory. It's mandatory that the income uh, that you claim with those legal structures is market. So I'm a business owner and I have to pay myself according to industry standard. But if I go work for somebody else, they can underpay me or leave a big pay gap. There is something not right about that. So I thought that these laws with pay transparency would tell the tale, um, similar to the story that I shared in another segment where I found out that I was being paid less than other PMs within amongst my colleagues, even though we were doing the same work. So Um, I thought the pay transparency laws would, do some correcting. Um, but those laws have not been adopted um, within, uh, at a federal level, right? So legal requirements for pay transparency um, uh, as more states mandate salary ranges and job postings. So at the federal level, it's not mandated. And in Texas and Ohio, neither one of them have a state level law that will that mandates pay transparency. Um, However, there are cities that are putting in an ordinance or making it mandatory that they provide reasonable salary when ranges when posting a job description. So for public positions with in the government, um, this is mandated. But the private sector, um, there's not a vehicle to mandate that, right? So, um, but as more and more cities begin to make pass requirements that make employers with 15 employees or more to provide these reasonable salary. This is a word now. Reasonable salary range in the job postings. It's opening the door for more salary transparency. And so these are small efforts to close the gender race gap, right? So the national gender pay gap widened slightly, with women earning roughly 80 to 81% what men earn, and Black and Latino women face even steeper gaps, earning 65 cents and 58 cents respectfully. I say respectfully, I say disrespectfully, for every dollar paid to white non-Hispanic men. And so that's what I'm saying is that those charts, yeah, I'm like, you ain't even gotta ask me. This is industry standard. It's publicized. They have this mandate here that they said this, I have this role. This is how much I should get paid, right? But here you could see even with a publication, that gender race gap, it still is applied. So with transparency compliance, a key takeaway here is that even in states with limited transparency laws, remote hiring requires awareness of national trends. So if you are going into, if you're have a remote work position, um, you want to have legal on hand as you are even posting for a remote work position, because that state or that city that you're paying into may have a mandate for that post to have a reasonable salary range that accompanies that job posting. It may be in a state that has pay transparency laws um, that impacts that remote position. So pay transparency, I'm for it because we all know too often overqualified women of color who are underpaid for the work that they do. Okay, the list, I mean, we could just stack up the list of folks like, wow, doctor, PhD, bachelor, what, and you're like, okay. So yeah, uh, I think closing the pay gap, the gender pay gap and pay transparency will help that. Um, and then we could talk about reasonable salaries. Mandating it as a business owner, you know, as a business owner, we get hit on this side, we get hit on that side because we can't get the earned income to invest in our own income stacks. But then on the owner side, we have requirements to meet industry standard reasonable salary. So it's just all right. But in any case, we both might talk about it. So we'll see. Um, navigating those waters. But I will tell you, I used AI. Yeah, AI. We got with it. So I used AI. I put my I have a portfolio that has at least 30 years of work in it. Um, my first position, like I guess my first earned income position at an architecture firm, um, was through a cooperative program at the university, and we were instructed to always to get samples of our work to have the cooperative experience evaluated, and to take notes as to what we learned. All of a sudden, we had to turn those things into the cooperative office and stuff like that at that time. I don't know how it is now, but that's how that was at that time. So I had to, I've already had that practice of and building your portfolio, because when they sent us out to interviews, you had to have a physical portfolio. Now it's a digital portfolio and all these other different things. So I converted all the physical portfolio stuff into a digital portfolio, and I fed that into AI and asked it to spit me out what my salary should be. Um, and yeah, yeah. And then I asked AI, based on that salary and based on that portfolio, which roles would I be best matched up with. And then I asked, uh, um, had AI work out a payback plan of student loan amounts based upon those that salary that they outline. Um, and then I wanted to work out the the um the only I was trying to get the information from the Social Security office. Um, but yeah, um, trying to get information from the Social Security office so that I could work backwards in terms of figuring out if all of my employers were on there, and all the number crunching and all that kind of stuff. I have AI do all of that. And so I had a little roadblock there because I didn't have all the information that I needed. But I just said all that to say that AI is a collaborator when trying to figure out these long-term plans, right? So um, it can apply for positions for you. It can create the portfolio, your resume. Um, it's able to just assist in so many ways, um, especially now that um, when you are, and I'm talking earned income here, other business activities, other businesses, not your own, but you using these platforms have a rhythm of how they do things, and AI can detect that and work in your favor. And I think that is just so cool, just because it's such a it's a problem. It's a problem. So, um, some of the problems that are well known across earned income, um, culture, um, AI has introduced some real solutions or has become a real solution in that conversation. So I just want to throw that in there. Throw that little story in there. Yeah, and chew on that, chew on that, chew on that. Okay, so yeah. Um, yeah, so W-2 salary, reasonable salary. Um, and of course, the it's subject to taxes. So of course, if you are paying yourself, I'm back small business now. I'm back to small businesses now. LLC, S Corp, C Corp. But back on you now. Paying yourself, W-2 salary from your business. I always say 25%. Set aside 25%. Um, a bank account, you can get a partition bank account, and that partition bank account, with our many divisions and stuff like that, you can partition by division, but by focus too. So you can partition it so that as revenue comes in, 25% of all revenue coming in can go into a partition account, and that could be a set aside for any taxes. Um, Consider that. And this is the only income that builds your Social Security credits and determines your future monthly benefit. W-2 earned income is the only income that builds your Social Security credits and determines your future monthly benefit, right? So, all right. um, Anything else I want to say about that? No? Okay. All right, so let's go on to profit income distributions. Excess earnings taken as owner draws or dividends. So who has excess earnings? Surplus earnings. You got surplus earnings. You just don't know what to do with it. So let's just take it as an owner draw. Yeah, that never crossed my mind. Or dividends. The tax advantage distributions are not subject to um, the percentage self-employment tax. Uh, Check with your tax professionals for all this accounting, tax professionals on all of this checks and balances. Um, but while you may save 15% today, this income is invisible to the Social Security Administration, potentially lowering your retirement floor, potentially, right? So the maximum earnings subject to Social Security tax rises to 184,000 in 2026. So owners must balance these higher tax costs against the need for maxed out earnings records. So the key takeaway here is salary versus distributions. Pass-through owners can take profits as wages or distributions, but should weigh the benefits of higher Social Security payout against immediate tax liabilities. So this is a business owner's decision. So you want to get those group professionals that we talked about in the last hour, to help you make the best decisions that would be the best decisions for you, your management team, your owners, and your family, right? So get a consensus of thought, right? So um, talked about pay transparency, gender race gap, so we can just kind of peruse by that. That was the next section. All right, so well, let's talk about pay gaps in Social Security. Okay, so since and this we're back on earned income, both whether it's from your you paying yourself in your business or some other business um, activity, somebody else's business. So pay gaps in Social Security. the reality is if I'm being underpaid, then this is the gap reality, addressing the existence of wage gaps within small businesses and the pressure to close them, right? So this is saying wage gaps within small businesses, but wage gaps for business owners of color already exist. So like I said, on both sides, we're talking about on both sides. We get it on if you are a business owner um, who is of color, and then you are a female, you're kind of getting this two-edged sword, right? So, um, the Social Security impact for baby boomer and Gen X owners, lower earned income, and this is due to by prioritizing low taxes over high salary. This leads to significant lower Social Security retirement payments, but so does payment gaps because of race and gender discrimination. That does too. So in the present, the wage gap um, has an impact, but it also has a long-term impact over the the lifetime when I retire, because my stack should be higher. So both is true. So proactive planning, strategies for maximizing earnings during the final 10 years of business ownership. So um, it's adjusting within, that decade that you're going to retire, that you maximize earnings by coming up with a plan and working plan. So within that working plan, our income stack, that's kind of our working plan to a multiplication. Multiplication is our working plan across the board. We've multiplied our consulting areas, we've multiplied our managed services areas, and we've multiplied our income stack. I think that's you can almost tell our our strategy has everything to do with multiplication. We're increasing the chances, increasing the chances to profitability. But there are some retirement vehicles, and usually financial planners or the investment planners would suggest some of these things in regards to Social Security using the SEPRA, solo 401ks. I was calling these 410s. I had uh, dyslexic moment. And I kept calling it 410. I was talking to somebody, I was like, 410, 410. And I was like, wait a minute. Why am I saying for this 401ks? And I was like, why you didn't correct me? They were like, I'm like, you gotta correct me when I say stuff like that because I'm having a dyslexic moment. And defined benefit plans for high earners, particularly with 2026 contribution limits, right? So um, there are retirement vehicles that could be used for business owners. And I had to discover that because I kept getting planners who did not know how to handle retirement for business owners. So that's why I indicate when you're vetting to make sure the folks that you talk to are specializing in business solutions in regards to those areas. Very important because you'd be missing out. You're missing out on stuff. All right. And so retirement vehicles such as SEP, IRAs, solo 401ks, and then exit planning, how to turn the profit income structure into an exit ready company. And that's what the Smart Biz Facts is about. The Smart Biz Facts is about turning that profit income structure into an exit ready company, um, packaging it that way. Right. And so I received this question on social media about particularly our legal structure, with LLC, prohibiting a business exit. And so I'm going to read my response um, to that and share that with you as well, because this may be something that you're thinking about as well. So yeah, Urbanetectonics is a LLC. It's managed. It's a Urbanetectonics LLC is a managed service provider structured in 12 divisions. These divisions have their own brand strategy that can stand alone. Should the division exceed a set dollar amount, take on founders, merge, or get acquired, it will take on the legal structure and compliance that is called for in due diligence and appropriate to business continuity. So uh, we have intentionally um, divided them in that way so that they're able to have that flexibility. And I think I talked about that in a couple sessions before. Um, and so it's been our experience through working with consulting, business owners, um, tapping into business brokerage, that when a business is merging or taking on investment funds, those businesses that have a legal structure that is not conducive to deal structure will change the legal structure to fit favorable deal terms. Um, if a buyer purchases the business right out or merges with the business, kind of just acquires that business, and they change the legal structure after the purchase, or take on the business that's being acquired takes on the legal structure um, of the business that bought it, right? So um, whatever the details, legal will work it out in the paperwork, because there's going to be some paperwork involved to say what happens and how everything's going to shake out in the end. And however the uh, um, the new owners or the new management team wanted to, how they wanted to sit, they could make it happen right then and there. It just takes a little little money to make it happen, right? Either legal structure can be transferred to another. It just takes some cash to do so. Takes a payment fee to do it, right? So, um, but yeah, uh, when exiting, um, it is important to have that plan in place. And it's at 10 years. That's a good time frame, but it goes fast. It goes fast. So I would say, as soon as possible, start shifting to um, infrastructure that is transferable in an exit. Okay, so the key takeaways for this retirement planning, whether exit planning or retirement vehicles, um, of course, if you're Texas versus Ohio owners, because those are the locations where Urbanetectonics exists, regarding state-specific tax considerations and how you prepare, like I said, enlist a professional within that region who specialize in businesses within that state. We have to do the same thing. Some of the things that, for instance, even some of our divisions that we operate within Texas, we can't operate within Ohio because they have differing rules of thumb um, and guidelines to which you have to um, be aware of and be sensitive to. So, retirement plan owners over 50, Gen X boomers, maximize W-2 wages to bolster your Social Security benefits, um, and um, audit your 35 highest earning years, which is critical before deciding to shift more income into profit distributions. Okay, so it's a nifty advice. All right, so um, retirement, Social Security, pay gaps. Yeah, I got feisty on that pay gap stuff because I mean, my goodness, I knew that was going to be the hardest segment for me, but I did good. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself. I did not get ugly. Did not get ugly. All right, so last segment going in business capital investing. I'm excited because this is some new information that I'm just getting. That is changing our mental models and how we're going to do things. So we are going to be chewing on this, and we're excited about it. As we shift gears, I attended a summit this week that sparked conversations and excitement around business capital and business investing options, right? So the work is relevant to us personally and to where our business assessment areas are. We're working on core 5 and 6. That's sales and marketing. 6 is multimedia. And 8 and 9, we're working on technology and asset management. That's financial portion of it. So Core 8 is a financial platform. All right. So my mentoring prior to the pandemic, my mentoring work with small businesses, I made a discovery. The business owners that worked so hard on the business plans we required came back, just kept coming back, indicating that their particular banks, and it wasn't the same bank, were not qualified finance bankers to evaluate the business plans. Business owners returned in frustration, indicating they were not being reviewed or and were immediately asked to secure their own loans, right? So these business bankers, finance, were able to do a horizontal or vertical analysis or of their projections or their reports. And so I reached out to find out the process, and the process followed the way the loans were given out during the pandemic, right? So the pandemic forced the process into like public transparency. So this is not something that's secret anymore, which solidified some of the problems for me. Here are the problems that the pandemic business loan programs amplified. And there were a great solution for lots of folks. So um, just want to plug that in. So there are staff shortages resulting in a review of the business plans and reports to individuals at banks to review, give feedback, and to decide. So that's a normal process. So these individuals are more likely not finance bankers able to conduct a horizontal, vertical, or analysis of financial plans or projections. And most of them require you to become a member of their bank or have what they call floating business banking specialists. So it's hard to establish a relationship with a community banker. Um, this is just something that we found. This is not conclusive all over, right? So the pandemic business loan programs also amplified the business owners didn't and don't have 30, 60, or 90 days of cash flow available. So in kind of taking understanding something that I was seeing and trending within the business owners I was working with. And then as we are looking to scale uh, some of the divisions and the business as a whole, we decided in this year with our core 8 and our core 9 to roles, to overlap our roles so that now I'm defending the financial side of our business to build a better mousetrap for our financial tech stack, right? So in doing that, I found out that it would take 5 different software subscriptions to complete the process we needed to scale and wanted possibly to deliver to clients, right? So if we wanted to get in on solving some of these problems that we saw, in order to do that, right now, the way that we had the financial tech stack, it would take 5 different software subscriptions, and in themselves, they wouldn't be complete, and even together, they may not be complete in what was needed. And so um, we decided we saw opportunity to build Comcore 8, a fintech SaaS product. In February, it won a national award, and so we think this is the beginning, just the beginning. We haven't even begun to finish it. It's the beginning of something that could be a long-term solution for internal business management. But now that it's out there, I'm sure there's lots of folks who are in that industry who's jumping right on that to fix that problem. So we may see um, better solutions and better mousetraps to pop up. We'll see. So we're talking about ComCore 8, of course. That's core 8 of the 10 core assessments and consulting services. And so the 10 core assessments and consulting service assist owners, managers, and administrators in building the infrastructure, systems, and process that curb operational chaos, right? So um, that's what we do. And so that problem is prime for us to get involved. And so we're currently productizing the 10 core service and architecting the transition of these core methods into automation, apps, and SaaS products using AI. Of course, the SaaS apps add a layer of legal complexity, data privacy, SOC 2, compliance, and that's much stricter than standard consulting agreements. And so we're working through that as well. So with that said, let's circle back to the new things I learned in business capital investing. As I said before, I am a first generation business owner, so I'm paving the way for first generation business owners that are discovering different um, solutions alongside alongside me. So the way has not been, completely outlined. We haven't been given, oh, this is the way you do things, and all that. So all these aha moments are so impactful to our quest for sustainability and longevity. And that's why we're so excited. And we just want to share it with everybody. And some of you might like, I knew that. I knew that. Well, good for you. Good for you. Okay. You know, you share, I'm sharing. I'm just discovering some of this stuff. And so I'm excited about it. Because if I didn't discover it, I wouldn't have known. I would have known, and maybe those would be problems that might trip us up and stuff like that. So I get excited about solutions. And so I'm excited about some of the solutions that I learned. So one of the sessions I attended um talked about capital stacks. And that to me, that was a total game changer, reshaped some of my mental models. I'm just like, it's churning, it's churning. And that's trouble. You don't want me churning. Oh my goodness. I crack myself up. So anyway, this discussion talked about those in-between options to bank loans and venture capital. So um, we just discussed some of the situations that um, the stories that I heard about um, business owners trying to get bank loans. I've had experience in tread the process so that I could understand it better as well. I've gone to at least a half a dozen banks and tread the process to try to find out um, after finding some of these things out. Um, but and that's why I said it's very different. I said in the last segment that it was very different than uh, when I was um, did packages for real estate development. When I was doing the marketing packages for real estate development, it was different than when submitting a business plan for um, uh, just a regular business needing working capital. Um, so working capital and construction loans or business loan um, appear to be two different conversations. And so I learned that for the first time, like, oh, okay, because when we do construction loans, it was just received a lot differently. So um, that in between options between bank loans and then venture capital, and been doing a lot of uh, gaining knowledge within venture capital, and so this conversation about angel investment kind of redefined that whole thing for me. So where do we sit in this conversation? Like, what has changed? What has changed? So I have invested over 30,000. I think at least 30,000 of my own earned income into business effort and business owners. And I never thought of myself as an angel investor, right? So I didn't compose any terms. I didn't feel like um, that that was a role, that I could take on. Not in uh, the definition of an angel investor that I understood, right? And so um, I have plenty of business to invest in. But I thought I had to meet certain requirements to be able to do that. And so this conversation changed my mental model about that. And I'm an angel investor, and I should have composed some terms. So business capital, um, how we have been navigating business capital is our introduction into VC was uh, in regards to Cube Engineered Solutions and the MVP we were trying to get funded, right? And so the MVP funding need now is unclear. We are still revamping because as AI has facilitated the line of products and projects that were in waiting to be developed, um, we have to we're reevaluating the products and the projects as we're building them because AI is improving and it's kind of eliminating some products. It's a collaborator and I've said this before, it's a collaborator, but it's also a competitor because there's no need of us building something that AI can do. Um, and but if we want to include AI in it, we have to make sure that we can continue to monetize that as it scales and grows. Um, because that's the other item is the cost to if we are talking about tech debt, tech debt, um, balancing that out so that these projects pay for themselves, the products pay for themselves, that tech has to pay for itself. Right. So, um, but just a short year ago, the MVP that we were pitching to be funded, now we are able to facilitate with AI. So, um, that's the first area, and that's why we were in venture capital. That's how we come to be curious about angel investing, and have gained so much knowledge within that path, um, along that path, um, for facilitating public sector. We still look to lines of credit to bridge gaps into or any misaligned timing of cash flow on public sector clients. If you are working with public sector clients, you kind of understand when I say bridge gaps and misaligned timing, the workflow and the pay flow of public sector is different than private sector. So our private sector clients incur a mobilization fee, retainer, escrow set aside, or a deposit, depending on the industry and the type of service delivery. We use those instruments for private sector, and we can write that right into the contract. For public sector contracts, they usually head up what the contract terms are, and you have to agree to it. Or if you don't agree to it, then have legal say, okay, I agree to everything except line 4 or 5, or add this, and there's a negotiation there. But they're usually heading up the contract terms, where private sector, you're usually heading up the contract terms, unless you are have a corporate client who has vendor agreements, subconsultant, subcontractor agreements, they're prime, and they are have contracts for um, subconsultants, subcontractors, or vendor agreements. Um, it may follow that same lines of thought, but you still can require within that um, a way that uh, project mobilizes itself. Um, then fourthly, sweat equity compensation plans. This is something that we um, were introduced to through the owner. We had sessions with the owner of Geekdom. We were a co-worker down there when we first came to the San Antonio area, and uh, we had discussed even then having these commission schedules, and I he suggested, you know, this sweat equity compensation plan, but I thought I understood, but I didn't understand it until I had a session maybe last year, and they re-explained it. And I'm like, oh, I thought I understood, but I didn't understand. So sweat equity compensation plans, incentive equity or equity interest in exchange for work, services, cash, or assets. I was treating that like a straight on commission schedule. So, um, yeah, got a better understanding of that and how that can work to create business capital and mobilization. So, and then fifthly, the unit economics. Every project must pay for itself, with units yielding greater than 65% operating margins and greater than 35% profit margins. All right, so that's kind of where we sit. This is where we where we sit, and to add to that now, we're adding to that now. Um, to this capital stack, adds to possibly 2, 3, and 4. That's our line of credit, ideas, private sector, and sweat equity. We were introduced to this idea of revenue-based loans. This is a type of financing where the lender provides capital in exchange for a fixed percentage of future gross revenues. Unlike traditional loans with fixed monthly installments, the payment fluctuates based on your sales volume until a predetermined, it could be a predetermined cap. Um, uh, it fluctuates based on your sales volume. Okay. And then to tiered repayments for, and this is for equipment purchases. The tiered repayments is a structured repayment schedule often used for heavy machinery or IT infrastructure where payments start low while the equipment is being integrated and increase over time as the asset begins generating its own return on investment. And it becomes an asset that can be used for um, to as collateral. Um, then PIK business loans, payment in kind business loans, a loan where the interest is not paid in cash during the term. Instead, the interest is adding to the principal balance compounding. The total balloon amount is usually paid at maturity or doing a refinancing event, preserving your immediate operational cash, right? So I need to dig more into that. That's not the way I understood that. But in any case, um, new, new to us. And then there was an introduction to this 12-month flat 10% fee business loan without collateral guarantee or hidden fees. All right, so those are some of the capital stack tools that we now can add to our options. And we're happy about being able to add some options to our capital stack. Um, very excited about that and wanted to share that with you um, and what we've learned on that. All right, so that is and I'm right on time with that. Um, that ends the second hour of BOMAQ Talk. I hope you got something out of it because I'm uh, hope you got something out of something we've shared. um, enjoy your Friday, your weekend. Enjoy if you are celebrating for the holiday. We are celebrating, so we will be off. We will not have a BOMAC talk the Friday before Resurrection Sunday, and then the Friday after Resurrection Sunday, Easter. And so we'll see you on Belmac Talk, perhaps on April 17th. That's the Friday, it's the third Friday in April. Um, but that'd be sort of like our spring break. And so enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend. Thank you for listening and signing on. Again, if you have any questions, we've outlined in very detailed how you can get in touch with us. Um, 'Tis it. All right. That's BOMAC Talk. Enjoy.